This is CBC Vancouver News.
The jury in the coroner's inquest into the death of Myles Gray has classified it as a homicide. More in the findings and recommendations 8 years after he died in a confrontation with Vancouver police. First responders take the stand in the trial of a man accused of murdering a teenage girl in Burnaby almost 7 years ago.
Lamp is burning low upon my tabletop.
With the dull of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty.
And saying goodbye to Gordon Lightfoot. The legendary Canadian singer-songwriter has died. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. The jury in the coroner's inquest for Myles Gray has classified his death as a homicide. Gray died in 2015 after a violent altercation with VPD officers. The findings, which are not meant to lay blame, come at the end of 11 days of testimony. Bill Puri has more on the recommendations.
The jury made 2 recommendations for the Vancouver Police Department for the Chief Constable. The first is to expedite the implementation of body cameras with audio for all patrol officers. The jury maintains that'll help with timely investigation resolution and improve public trust. During the inquest, testimony from police officers, the forensic pathologist, and a representative of the Independent Investigations Office, all of those people made reference to body cams and said that that would be something that should be implemented. As well, there's a recommendation that the Vancouver Police Department review and enhance de-escalation training, that there be more frequent in-person training, that officers learn to step back and reassess the situation, and learn to coordinate when there are multiple police officers at the scene. And for the Provincial Health Authority, the recommendation is not to dispose of toxicology reports and results after 6 months, but to hold on to them until all investigations have been exhausted. Ian Donaldson is the lawyer for the Gray family. He says the Crown should now reconsider laying charges against some of the officers involved in the incident.
When the pathologist said the cause is undetermined, he'd been given a great deal of information which we now know was inaccurate.
The police complaint commissioner had recommended charges against a handful of officers, but the Crown had initially declined to lay any charges. Coming up in the fall, there is a disciplinary hearing for 6 or 7 of the officers. The family will have no input in that process. Belle Puri, CBC News, Burnaby.
Myles Gray's mother, meanwhile, calls the homicide classification of her son's death, quote, the best possible outcome.
7.5 years of having worry and anxiety, waiting for this day. Now it is over. It's kind of like I can kind of move forward and live now because I know that the truth has been aired publicly. We have a better understanding of what happened to Myles Gray that day, which I knew all along. And now everybody else knows it too.
One of the recommendations is that Vancouver Police get all its officers' body-worn cameras, and soon, as we heard, the VPD says it will take some time to review the recommendations before commenting further. Today marked the second day of witness testimony in the trial of the man accused of killing a 13-year-old girl in Burnaby in 2017. First responders recounted the moments before they discovered the victim in Central Park. Our John Hernandez was at Ibrahim Ali's trial today and warning some people may find these details disturbing.
2 police officers and a paramedic took the stand today, painting a clear picture of the crime scene they came across in the early hours of July 19th, 2017. Corporal Stacey Rogers with Burnaby RCMP was on duty and recalls hearing on dispatch that a 13-year-old girl had gone missing whose phone had been tracked to Burnaby Central Park. She said she raced over there, the call immediately raising red flags. When she arrived, she met with 2 police constables who managed to find the teen's phone on the side of a trail. The 3 of them waited there and called in the police service's dog team. Now, when that dog team arrived, it took all but a minute for them to find the body. Rogers recalls hearing the dog handler shriek and scream and call for help, so she ran into the woods, and that's where she saw the body. The teen was laying on her back, half naked. Her skin was pale. Emergency paramedic Ryu Iwachi Paradis was then called. He recalls arriving and being escorted into the woods by police officers. On the way, he says he saw a pair of headphones tangled on a bush. When he then arrived upon the body, he said the young girl was obviously deceased. Now, police officers then established containment around Burnaby Central Park, setting up at entrances and exits. Now, during the defense's cross-examination, they questioned Rogers about a film crew that was also in the park that night, specifically questioning why the workers there weren't canvassed by police. Rogers said given police resourcing at the time, it made more sense for them to set up at those entrances and exits and ID people going in and out. Now, Ibrahim Ali has been charged with first-degree murder in the case. The victim's name is protected by a publication ban. Now, dozens more witnesses are expected to testify in the coming weeks, with DNA evidence likely to play a key role in the days and weeks ahead. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Surrey City Council and the Premier are set to meet to talk about policing. The meeting will come after the province recommended the city transition to a municipal force and do away with the RCMP. Michelle Gassoub has more on the concerns and potential fallout.
I think there's a lot of frustration. Here we go again.
Some Surrey City councillors are still reeling after Friday's announcement, and Solicitor General Mike Farnworth's offer estimated at up to $150 million to help pay for the transition to the Surrey Police Service. The Premier finally speaking on the issue today.
I know one of the key features of my conversation with the mayor, certainly it was her opinion, it's mine as well, that we need to get closure on this as quickly as possible. The people of Surrey need clarity about direction. It's my interest. I think this has gone on too long. It's hers as well. I think she's of the same opinion.
Mayor Brenda Locke was defiant last week, but she faces a delicate balancing act. Locke and her Surrey Connect majority on council voted to keep the RCMP, while Surrey First and Safe Surrey coalition councillors voted to move to a municipal police force. That sets up a narrow 5-4 majority for Locke. Now, with millions of dollars on the line, it would take just one defection from Locke's camp to upset that balance. And there are other complicated dynamics at play. Councillor Rob Stutt, a former Mountie who voted against the transition, has been accused of conflict of interest violations for allegedly failing to disclose family ties to the RCMP. Locke may be at risk of losing his vote. Other councillors say it's just too much money to walk away from.
Something very serious that we need to be looking at, as well as the $150 million that the Premier and the province have put on the table to give to Surrey. And, you know, there may be other things that we can negotiate with them. So I think we have to be very careful and really deliberate.
It's like an offer we can't refuse. And there's a financial component to it, which is very beneficial to the citizens of Surrey. And really, it leaves us really no choice but to go in the one direction. The SPS is the way to go.
Councillors who support the RCMP remained tight-lipped today, but the fallout is already spreading to other cities. Two councillors in New Westminster questioning why the province is putting so much money on the line for Surrey alone. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Surrey.
Canada has lost one of its greatest musical giants. Singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot has died. He was 84. His legendary career spanned 7 decades with hundreds of songs that wove themselves into this vast country. He leaves behind his wife Kim, 6 children, and several grandchildren. Deanna Sumanek-Johnson has a look on an extraordinary life and career.
Remember me, I'm the one who loved you.
By his early 20s, Gordon Lightfoot was already a mainstay on CBC's variety shows.
Let's have a real big hand for Gordy Lightfoot.
In the 1960s, as folk movement gained popularity, so did his songs.
Hear the mighty engines roll.
That song, Early Morning Rain, would also eventually be sung by Elvis Presley. Just one of many American stars who admired the man who stayed in Canada even as his international fame grew.
If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa down.
In 1975, he wrote what he considered his finest song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, inspired by the previous year's sinking of a Great Lakes freighter that took down the lives of 29 of its crew members.
With the love of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty.
When you get the bug of songwriting, it stays with you all the time. You never quite forget about it.
At the 1986 Junos, another famous admirer, Bob Dylan, inducted him into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame.
All right, here he is now, Gordon Lightfoot.
But more than any accolades, what Lightfoot wanted was to continue recording and touring, even after the 2002 abdominal hemorrhage that almost took his life. The road to recovery was long and tough, but Lightfoot's love of the stage kept him going.
Sometimes I think it's a shame I get feeling better when I'm feeling no pain.
You know, I want to be like, like Wilf Carter and Stompin' Tom and Willie Nelson, and just do it just for as long as is humanly possible.
He actually continued performing well into his 80s, even through other health scares, and staying Canada's troubadour till the very end,
A key was kept inside a shoe.
capturing life stories, big and small, in timeless melodies. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Morning glories on my mind.
Evacuation alerts have now been lifted for some people near two wildfires in BC's Caribou region. The Dripping Water wildfire is the bigger of the two, around 209 hectares. The Caribou Regional District has lifted its evacuation alert, though it's not clear if the nearby Claydene-Coteine First Nation government has also lifted its alert. The smaller Lost Valley wildfire, which is about half the size, sparked an alert from the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, but that has also been lifted. On the other side, a local state of emergency remains in place in Cache Creek over flood risks. People are warned to stay away from the riverbanks until conditions improve. BC's River Forecast Centre says high temperatures have sped up the snowmelt, causing water levels in several rivers to rise. And there is more wet weather on the way. One property has been ordered evacuated so far. That order is in place until May 6th. Vancouver's 25-cent single-use cup fee is officially gone now. In January, Council voted to repeal the fee, which had only been in effect for about a year. The decision was made because some councillors don't think it changed people's behaviour. Despite the repeal, the city says it's encouraging businesses to continue adopting reusable options, like accepting reusable cups for all hot and cold beverages and offering discounts to customers who bring their own cups. And today marks the start of Metro Vancouver's water restrictions. From now until mid-October, people whose addresses are even-numbered can water their lawns on Saturday mornings, while people at odd-numbered addresses can water on Sunday mornings. Non-residential properties with the even numbers can water lawns on Monday mornings, while odd numbers can water on Tuesday. People are urged to check Metro Vancouver's website for more information. The BC government has now closed a loophole that will let people in stratas with 55-plus age limits have younger families members live with them. As Mira Baines reports, the change comes after people with children or planning to start a family complained they were being forced to move.
A new regulation under the Strata Property Act allows people to start families and continue to live in 55-plus buildings.
Losing your home because you're starting a family is one stress that we want to eliminate.
It was a problem that came to light after the BC government passed legislation last fall requiring strata buildings to remove any rules that prevented owners from renting suites. The exception was if the building is designated 55-plus. The change triggered some buildings to switch to 55-plus. It left some renters and owners who wanted to start families or adopt with no choice but to move until now.
Well, 230 out of 34,000 is the amount we expect changed over. Again, we know that they have the right to choose to go to 55-plus. It's a response to the Seniors Advocates' request that we leave that piece in there.
Rizan Talabian and her husband live in Maple Ridge and are expecting a baby. She says Strata members voted to change her complex to age 55-plus and was told they would have to sell their home.
a relief that like finally this is happening to help so many people in my situations and those to come. Again, I can't stress it enough to say that this has been happening for a very long time and people have been forced to move.
The Condominium Homeowners Association says the rules needed to be clarified to also allow people to adopt or allow their children or grandchildren to move in.
It's about the change in family status. Accommodating family status is really what it is.
The opposition says the Strata Property Act was rushed through last year without proper debate.
There wasn't an opportunity for input from those people who'd be affected by it, and because it wasn't well thought out, there was a real issue with the concern that all of these strata corporations are going to move to the 55 plus.
The amendment to the act comes into effect immediately. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
It's just so creepy to know that someone could have been watching in that moment.
Vacationers on the Sunshine Coast found an unwelcome surprise in their rental, a hidden camera. What happened? After the break. And hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. Victoria is home to Canada's oldest Chinese temple. It's been a fixture of that community for more than 100 years. Founded as a refuge for Chinese people in Canada facing racism, the house of worship has come into hard times and needs repairs and seismic upgrades. Organizers, meanwhile, are struggling to raise the nearly $500,000 to save it.
We are in the heart of Chinatown, Victoria, in the Tam Kung Temple, which is the oldest Chinese temple in Canada. The temple has been on the site for over 111 years. The history is that this Tam Kung Temple was built by my great-grandfather. He goes by the name Ngai Si. He wanted a place of worship and also a place of refuge for the many bachelor men that came across the ocean and work on our Canadian Pacific Railway. They were all drawn by the vision of a better place to live in the West. Little did they know when they came over here, there's a lot of racism and discrimination, but nonetheless, they built a life here, and they built a life that they want to continue to stay here. And Chinese Temple is a vision of that. This is part of my home. I want to stay here, but I like my heritage to continue.
Our deity is Tam Kung. People worship him as an ancestor, and he's actually the saint of travelers and mariners and people that were coming across the ocean to Canada. They respected him, and so they prayed to him that he would protect them on their journeys. Well, right now, because the building is 112 years old, it needs extensive repairs and upgrades. Like our roof is leaking, our windows are leaking, the floor is held together by masking tape. So we need a lot of work to try to preserve it for our future generations, because we really don't want to see anything happen to it. We encourage people to donate, but we understand everybody has different circumstances, and some people who can't afford it, they don't, and other people are much more generous, but we're not, we're open to everyone. And we encourage everybody across Canada to come and visit us and discover for yourself what a wonderful little piece of history we have here.
What was supposed to be a fun weekend birthday trip on the Sunshine Coast recently took a very dark turn. As the CBC's Michelle Gomez explains, a group of women discovered hidden cameras in their Airbnb, and now police are involved.
Jamie Gladman was celebrating her 30th birthday with a group of friends at an Airbnb in Gibsons last month when one of her friends became suspicious of hidden cameras. After searching the home, they found two, both inside broken power outlets in each of the bathrooms and both facing the showers.
And there was a crack in one of the outlets, so I think it prompted one of my friends to look into it because I guess she had seen TikToks and videos online about people finding hidden cameras.
At that point, they had already been there for 2 days, showering and using the bathrooms.
It was terrifying. Like, it was honestly a little traumatic. It was weird because it was on our last night and, you know, we're all just trying to have a good time. And then suddenly, like, the tone completely changed.
The group went to sleep anxious and left first thing the next morning, hoping they were wrong. But a few weeks later, local police told Gladman they found cameras after searching the property. Sunshine Coast RCMP confirmed to CBC they are investigating.
It's just so creepy to know that someone could have been watching in that moment. And even if not, if it's something they're playing back, like, it's very off-putting.
Kennedy Caldwell was also on the trip.
We were scared. Like, the girls started making makeshift weapons and hiding them under the bed. Like, we all slept in one room together. It's really scary because you don't know who was staying there before us. How long had that camera been in there? Like, there could have been families with children staying there.
Experts say advances in technology have made it easier for people to hide cameras.
Camera and video technology is becoming increasingly sophisticated, has really facilitated this kind of interpersonal surveillance.
Airbnb wrote in a statement they ban hidden cameras. The company says it has suspended the listing in question and refunded the guests. The women are in contact with a lawyer and plan to take legal action. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
There's a live shot of the Port of Vancouver. We have lots of weather going on across our province right now. Johanna will have your BC-wide picture right after this.
This morning, something inside of me told me this would be my day.
Never was a strong guitar player. Fortunately, I have a lot of strong people around me to help carry the load. But I worked real hard and I wrote a lot of songs, and I learned a lot of songs is what I did. I started playing 12-string and I learned a whole bunch of songs, and I got to the point where I could sing in bars and lounges.
Lamp is burning low upon my tabletop. The snow is softly falling. The air is still in the silence of my room. I hear your voice softly calling.
Songwriting is an extremely difficult gig. It takes a specific talent to do it. And I've written now just over 400 songs. And it's hard on your mind. And it takes a toll on your nerves, and you're obsessed with it, and you're driven to it, and you're always just shooting for that ultimate quality of that perfect piece of material, that perfect poem. That's what keeps you going.
Smoke rings rising till they disappear. The sky above. If you ask me, I'll take along.
I love the work. It's fun. It's really fun to do, to get out, be able to perform and feel that communication, because you know that you're putting out as much as you can, and there's no doubt about that. I'm basically a shy sort of individual. Like, I have a shy streak. I just go out there, do the job to the best of my ability, and carry on. Whatever will be said later will be said, be it good or be it bad, or both.
Oh, there was a time in this farewell
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The Doxa Documentary Film Festival returns May 4th to 14th. Enjoy thoughtful and engaging documentaries, special presentations, industry events, and more. Get your tickets at doxafestival.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast, and there is a lot to get to with meteorologist Joanna Wagstaff. Lovely day Saturday.
Yes.
Sort of return to the spring grayish showers Sunday. How much more can you pack into this?
We're gonna need a full 6 mini-part series, I think, to get through. Yeah, it is. It is that time of the year where we've got multiple sides to the weather coin as we watch spring melt lead to flooding concerns, avalanche concerns, and those warm temperatures sparking wildfires. So let me show you the big picture. Low pressure system spinning off our coast. So in contrast to the all clear skies we had on Saturday, we do have this plume of moisture bringing isolated thunderstorms and showers to the interior. That overall is keeping fire danger down. And you can see the BC fire danger rating for today, just a few pockets of high in there, really a far cry from the kind of map we're going to see in a couple months. On the other side, though, those dry conditions, because of those warm temperatures sticking around for a couple of days, but where we do have those isolated downpours and those freezing levels are up around 3,000 meters. Flood watches are in place now for the South Thompson, but generally high stream advisories for all of the BC interior. So we're going to continue to see melt over the next couple of days with temperatures staying up around the mid-20s. We won't see temperatures come down to seasonal until Thursday, Friday for BC. And I put Alberta on here as well because they're sharing in the heat. Today, the winds are what sparked up the wildfires on the east side of the Rockies. So yes, a lot going on. This is what we normally see this time of the year, that flood fire dichotomy, but we're seeing that switch over happen faster and faster with climate change. 21 tomorrow in through Williams Lake, so you can see warm temperatures for another day, and that goes for the south coast as well. 17 for YVR, but inland 23 tomorrow, 23 for Wednesday, and then Dan, a return to the other side of the weather coin for midweek.
That coin's spinning around. We're getting everything.
It's just flipping and yeah.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
And that's your late news for Monday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news at any hour, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. It starts tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. And we leave you with more Lightfoot. Good night, Gordon.
The lamp is burning low upon my tabletop. The snow is softly falling. The air is still in the silence of my room. I hear your voice softly calling. If I could only have you near to breathe a sigh or two, I would be happy just to hold the hands I love on this winter night with you. The smoke is rising in the shadows overhead. My glass is almost empty. I read again between the lines upon the page the words of love you sent me.